Hi, my name is Shaun Gibson, and I'm an aerospace engineer for part of Air New Zealand. I'm very much an analyzer and into the details. Me and people like me are responsible for ensuring aircraft safety of the design of the aircraft. A few months ago I wouldn't have considered myself a Christian of any form really. I had respect for Christianity, but I respected it from a moral sense perhaps, but I was by no means convinced of the stories of the Bible. So my biggest concern about Christianity was really that it was based on a book that was written between 2000 and 3,500 years ago. I just was not convinced that you could verify that anything in there had not changed in that time. The idea that Jesus actually did rise from the dead seemed to me to be highly unlikely, and so I wasn't convinced that there was really anything in it other than to try and help people to have some peace with their life. I met a group of Christians that I got to know reasonably well. The idea of their faith came up occasionally. It really made me realise that they did really take it seriously. It wasn't just something they said they did. They actually did believe this stuff, and they actually had more good reasons for believing it than I had ever thought they would. I still was not convinced at all, and they asked me why I believed what I believed, and I kind of gave them some answers. I realised that the beliefs that I had were really just based on what I thought sounded good. I realised I needed more information on is there any real evidence for Christianity, and not just put it off, because I think that's what I was really doing. So I read a few books, I looked up some stuff on the internet about Christianity, a lot of stuff on atheism as well, and so I got the opportunity to go to a Explaining Christianity. It was really just an introduction into what is Christianity. It didn't really throw anything down my throat, but it did allow me to ask a lot of questions that I had about Christianity. Now, after looking at a lot of evidence for Christianity, I basically one day sort of realised that the amount of evidence that I'd found compared to the explanations why that evidence was not valid, the reasons for the evidence not being valid just didn't really cut it compared to what the evidence actually was. And eventually, just one day, I kind of woke up, literally as in the morning, I woke up and I just thought to myself, I just can't ignore what I've found out. There's too much here. I could either put my head in the sand and hum very loudly and pretend that I didn't know these things that I had found out, or I had to really give myself to Jesus. And I prayed to Jesus for forgiveness and to thank him for what he's done. And that is the point really where I really had become Christian. I didn't really ever want to be a Christian. I wanted to find out the truth, but I was just a bit sceptical that it would be Christianity. I'm still as dedicated to finding the truth now, in fact more so. It hasn't closed me off from the world and learning about the world at all. And I think that's one of the things that really makes me realise that this isn't some crazy cult that I've got myself involved in. It is actually involved in truth, because I myself feel no qualms about seeking further information about the reasons for atheism or Islam or Hinduism or Buddhism. I'll just really say to anyone who's not convinced about Christianity, I would say I understand where you are, because I was there as well. And I can really just say that look into it. Don't be afraid of asking Christians tough questions. You owe it to yourself to really look into this. If there is something here, as I'm convinced there is, you owe it to yourself to do that. I don't feel like I'm forgiven because of how good I am, and what makes, for me, Christianity makes so much sense is that God requires perfection, perfect goodness, and God knows that none of us can do that, and he doesn't expect us to. That is why he sent his son to pay the price for all the bad things we do in our life in our place. That's what I would expect a loving God to do, and that is what I'm convinced the loving God has done.